achievements, and I'm launching the video consolidated by the Work Package 1 team.
Good afternoon. Good morning. My name is Laura Forsyth. I am Associate Professor at the Natural Resources Institute in the UK. I'm very pleased to be presenting Work Package 1's achievements for Period 3 for the RTBfoods project on behalf of the Work Package 1 coordination team, partners, and contributors. Thank you so much for listening. Now, this is a very special annual meeting for Work Package 1, as it signifies to a large extent the end of this work package and the beginning of Work Package 5, moving essentially from consultation to evaluation. I personally have learned a great deal from the experiences of partners and engaging with partners over the past 3 years, which has been so very valuable to me both professionally and personally, and for that I'm really grateful. For today's presentation, I will provide a quick overview of Work Package 1 objectives, methodology, and commitments, followed by a description of our achievements pertinent to our planned activities for this period, and finally, our planning for Period 4. The main objective of Work Package 1 is to identify quality characteristics of RTB crops and final products for different user groups, how they may be prioritized, and the factors that influence these preferences for men, women, and other social segments. This was to be accomplished through a common, participatory, and interdisciplinary methodology, including food science, gender, and economics. The methods were grounded on a three-step approach developed by CIRAD, led by our own work package co-lead Geneviève Fladel in a previous CRP RTB project in 2015. For RTBfoods, we've adapted this methodology to include a socioeconomic, gender, and breeding focus, and include a strong sampling framework in order to access the priorities of people who grow, process, sell, and consume the crop. Indeed, this has been a very tall order. Work Package 1 used a 5-step methodology. The first step is state of knowledge, an exercise to establish what was currently known and unknown about the crop and product from a multidisciplinary perspective. This step was completed in Period 2, and the results are available on the RTBfoods platform. Step 2 is gender food mapping, a mixed method consultation process in rural communities with people who grow, process, sell, and consume the crop. This was, of course, to identify quality characteristics related to the crop and product, but also included really important information on varietal preferences, types of decision making, and the role of the crop in other, perhaps competing products. Step 3 was participatory processing diagnostics, which was processing demonstrations with expert processors, usually women, to undertake measurements and diagnostics of specific processing parameters and to evaluate varieties on their processability. Step 4 was consumer testing in rural and urban settings to identify overall liking and sensory mapping of final products. Step 5 is the food product profile, which brings together the quality characteristics from the 3 steps into a table based on expert analysis of the data by the partner teams, considering gender and broader livelihood factors. This is output 1.2.1. So very kindly, Gerard and Tessie have agreed to lead a session on lesson learning around this methodology as part of our Period 3 annual meeting. And this will facilitate a reflection on this methodology and really draw out what worked and what needs to be improved for the future. So let's now get to our achievements. All the work for Work Package 1 has been completed for 11 RTB food products. Reports and databases for each of these steps are now available on the platform. These results have led to 16 peer-reviewed papers and a registered report on the methodology in a special issue of the International Journal of Food Science and Technology called Consumers Have Their Say, assessing preferred quality traits of root tuber and cooking bananas and implications for breeding. Work Package 1 coordinators, focal points, and partners are extremely proud of how much work has gone into this and how much of a contribution to knowledge this has made. All teams, without exception, have participated in at least one publication of the special issue. So for this, we're really proud. So I'll now present some of our research findings pertaining to the main activities performed in Period 3. which were mainly finalizing Step 3 reports and conducting and reporting Steps 3 and 4. That was a clip of market interviews conducted by the NRCRI and IITA team for Step 2 in Nigeria. So we have a number of interesting findings from this exercise across the countries related to Step 2. I'll try to summarize here. Firstly, our products are playing an increasingly important role in people's daily diets and household income. Demand for products was growing. People often related this to population growth, but also to the affordability of the products. When times are tough, these are the products that are purchased or prepared at home. There were exceptions, but local crop varieties were often preferred for these products. It confirms really how important it is to understand the characteristics of these varieties. And to do that, we need to ask the right questions to the people who know best. Agronomic and processing practices and gender roles associated with these practices differed between and within profiles, often within the same country. Factors such as ethnicity, migration status, and wealth. Practices such as intercropping, monocropping, planting in heaps or rows, wrapping your sweet potato in a banana leaf or not, the people who grew, managed, processed, and sold the product, are all related to sociocultural practices in certain regions, or adaptive practices often related to resource constraints. This means that our drive to standardize conditions, identify certain rules, must be balanced with the reality of the complexity on the ground. Different groups of people in different places have different farming, processing, and consumption practices. Our research needs to address this and findings put in this context. Versatility of RTB crops, especially cassava and yam, mean that breeders need to address the traits associated with a range of products as a priority. This will help producers and processors to flexibly meet the demand of different products, and therefore increase their resilience and adaptability in an increasing uncertain context. Another important lesson from our findings was that while there is a push towards the inclusion of sensory characteristics in breeding profiles, we cannot do so at the expense of agronomic characteristics that haven't been given much attention or included in breeding profiles. Findings across the countries and products show similar agronomic preferences. For example, characteristics such as quick maturity, minimal labor requirements such as the reduction in time spent weeding, in-ground storability, and the ability of the crop to thrive in intercropping conditions and poor soils are vital characteristics, particularly for women. There were also some indications of trade-offs between characteristics associated with different market segments. For example, good canopy cover with cassava was considered by smallholders as important to reducing labor, weeding labor, women's labor. However, there's a preference among large-scale mechanized farmers for smaller canopies to reduce the spacing requirements between planted cassava. There were some differences in people's quality characteristic preferences, often for the same product among different countries. For example, characteristics for boiled cassava in Nigeria were related to softness and sweetness, and Benin, a white flesh and crumbly texture was highlighted. In Uganda, a pink or whiter outer skin was preferred, and non-fibrous roots were also mentioned. This may not necessarily indicate differences in the desired characteristics, but in the importance of those characteristics within the varieties available in that context. In some cases, differences in quality characteristics prioritized by food chain actors were related to socio-demographic factors, particularly ethnicity or migration status. For example, Gari in Nigeria, preferences regarding color and the level of drawability, softness and sourness differed across gender, region, and states.
17.05 kilograms for the second variety, 0.05.
That was a clip from the Work Package 1 workshop in Benin in Year 1 during the trialing of Step 3, Participatory Processing Diagnosis and Quality Characteristics. So I'll now present some of the findings under Step 3. So the most important features of a raw material and their corresponding product profiles according to processors during this step were density, shape, and appearance. Density was linked to yield and profitability, also to the quality of the product and the texture. Shape was linked to productivity. For example, the easiness of peel was linked to a good shape of cassava, yam, or sweet potato. Shape was also linked to maturity level of plantain and matoke and impacted on the processability of these crops and the quality of the end product. Regarding appearance, important criteria such as color and roughness of the peel were very important. With unknown varieties, processors were often not able to relate its appearance to the final quality of the product. Key findings on the processing conditions and vital characteristics for Work Package 2 and Work Package 5 to consider are the textural behavior of products during cooking. Cookability of the product is perceived by its texture, which must reach a certain standard sought by consumers. This corresponds to a certain degree of destructuring and hydration of the matrix, which varies according to product profile and local habits. The appearance of the final product is another vitally important feature. Factors such as color, shininess, and for some products profiles, the roughness aspect of the texture is linked to consumer expectations and the profitability of the product for the processor. Regarding sensory evaluation of the end products by processors, interviews with the 6 to 8 processors enabled the identification of a wide and relatively complete list of the most and least liked characteristics for color, texture, taste, and flavor, which are then used as descriptors for step 4. A mean value of the 25 most and least liked characteristics per product profile were obtained. These elements confirm the importance of interviewing expert processors in order to describe and characterize products to link with consumer expectations. That was a clip from a food market in Kampala during piloting of the tools. So I'll now move to step 4, consumer testing. It's worth a brief note in methodology. The quality characteristics related to the 5 senses, sight, hearing, smell, touch, and taste, were gathered through steps 2 and 3 and aggregated in this step 4, and then associated with consumer hedonic testing. In this example with boiled yam and benin, we see that quality characteristics were identified in steps 2 and 3 and aggregated in step 4. In step 4, those quality characteristics were attributed with a positive or negative feeling using hedonic testing. For example, under appearance, pink color for boiled yam was regarded as a negative characteristic and white as an attractive color. For texture, stickiness was a positive characteristic and fibrous was a negative. This slide presents the results from the different teams in terms of the quality characteristics of the products, so you can see how many terms are involved in this. There are so many. So what can we say from this? Same terms come across for various products, but some terms, such as stickiness, could be positive or negative depending on the product. So for example, with boiled cassava in Uganda and Benin, stickiness is referred to as a positive characteristic. However, stickiness is seen as a negative attribute with regards to fufu or pounded yam in Nigeria. Some terms are always positive, such as sweetness, and that is shown in green. Softness is shown in yellow and tends to be quite universally positive, except in the case of plantain. Some criteria, as we found under step 2, does differ between context regarding to different ethnic preferences and cultural habits. For example, in Benue and Osun, Benue consumers like non-fermented eba, while those in Osun tend to like fermented or sour eba. The following graph shows the liked and disliked quality characteristics of eba in Osun and Benue states, elicited by processors through processing varieties that were very different from each other, to create variation and contrast. The liked characteristics generally are those that are white, cream in color, sour, good aroma and taste, sweet, neat, and moldable. Characteristics that generally were disliked were moldable, not sticky, not tasty, offensive color, impurities, dull and dark brown. We will now move to step 5, the product profile. And the table that you see here was used in step 2 as the first iteration of the product profile. And it's a simplified version to identify the high and low quality characteristics, some indication of prioritization, their description of these characteristics, and also varieties that are associated with the characteristics. So the product profile is developed iteratively, step by step, to ensure that Work Package 1 informs the work of our partner teams in other work packages on a timely basis. This identifies the priorities for quality characteristics for Work Package 2 to correlate sensory characteristics with their physical chemical characteristics, but also Work Package 4 and 5, including important agronomic characteristics. So period 4 will really focus on packaging this data for the project and public use. Another area of work that Work Package 1 is really proud of is our work on gender. So this year we established the Gender Working Group. This consists of mainly social scientists, 16 individuals to be precise, from 9 different institutes, and provides a more equitable approach to developing research outputs and publications involving cross-partner research. So the Gender Working Group undertook a gender analysis of Step 2 data and co-developed the Gender Output Report, Part 1. This report covers 9 RTB products and includes analysis of gender roles along the food chain, a gender analysis of varietal use and preferences, in addition to an analysis of preferences for quality characteristics of RTB products, from planting to consumption. The findings were presented at the GREAT Gender Responsive Crop Breeding Conference and the French National Research Agency Conference on Gender Research Methods. They were also summarized in a blog for the RTBfoods and NRI websites. So I did say at the beginning of the presentation that Work Packages 1's work is largely over. And it is, but there's still an important step left to do, and that's, as I referred to in the previous slide, about how we package our findings and how we disseminate it. So during this annual meeting, we will be having discussions with the teams and other work packages about how we do so effectively, and it will form the basis of our interactions with product champions. Now, I have to say, a lot of the communication with other work packages and transferring knowledge from Work Package 1 to the work of other teams has been taking place at the partner level, I think, but at the level of the project, this probably needs to be done better, and the focus for period 4. Also, plans include methodology adaptation for the participatory varietal selection, which Work Package 1 and Work Package 5 will be working on together. There will also be a lessons learned session as part of this annual meeting that will inform this methodological development. And finally, there'll be some remaining work for the Gender Working Group, depending on availability and willing. We have 3 more research questions we would like to report on, and we're hoping to have at least 2 publications out of this work. So there we go. That wraps up this presentation. I just want to acknowledge the incredible amount of work and input that partners have fed into the results of this presentation, but throughout the last 3 years, it's been an incredible amount of work, and I've just valued the time spent with these individuals so very much. So I'm very grateful to them. Thank you. Other people I would like to thank, of course, are the Gender Working Group. The individuals that were working together on gender outputs are listed here. Also want to thank the Work Package 1 coordination team and focal points. Geneviève, absolutely, she deserves huge applause. Tessie Madu, who's an incredible leader that I've learned a lot from. Alexander, of course, and Halle. Just need to give a shout out to her, especially who was formerly working with us on the coordination team. My colleague Aurélie Bichoff from NRI, my gratitude, also Isabelle Maribel and Uli Klein from NRI. Thank you very much. And last but not least, absolutely, PMU. Dominique and Eglantine, your support through this has been incredible. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think we are ready to move into our discussion. Priscilla Marimo and I'm Deborah Rubin, are going to be facilitating this discussion. Priscilla, are you ready to go?
Yes, I am ready. Thanks, Deborah.
Great.
And yeah, thanks, Dominique. Thanks, Eglantine. And thanks, Laura, for the presentation. Yeah, I'll briefly introduce myself, and I will use French and English. I've been learning French throughout this COVID, so I'll use this platform to see if I've been a good student. So yeah, bonjour, hello everyone. Je m'appelle Priscilla Marimo. Je travaille à Kampala, Uganda, for Alliance of Biodiversity International and CIAT. I am an associate scientist. So to get the session going, I'll ask Dee to also introduce herself. And then since our group is a little small, I'll ask each and every one of our panelists to briefly introduce themselves in the interest of time, and then we move forward. Thanks.
So my name is Deborah Rubin. I'm a member of the advisory board for RTBfoods, and it's been great to see the clips in Laura's presentation and to remind myself of what I've been missing this year by not being able to be in the field. I'm based in Washington, DC. I'm the co-director of a small company called Cultural Practice, and my background is primarily in anthropology and gender studies. So Priscilla, over to you for a few comments about how we will proceed and the introductions on the panelists.
Thanks, sure. So we will, I'll just use the order that's in the screen in front of us. So we can start with Tacey and then Laura, then Kenneth, and then yeah, move on like that. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I'm Tessie Madu. I'm a work package 1 co-leader. I'm a director with National Root Crop Research Institute. I'm a social scientist and a gender expert. Thank you once again.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Forsyth. I cannot speak French, and it's one of my biggest regrets, but bonjour. Anyway, I'm from the Natural Resources Institute, and I'm leading Work Package 1. Thanks for having me.
Kenneth, are you on?
Priscilla, hello. Hello, Priscilla.
Yes, yeah, we can hear you.
Oh yes, I'm Kenneth Akankwasa. I'm a social economist by training. I work, I represent NOW and on Work Package 1 and 5. It's a pleasure to be on this panel. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aurélie Bischoff. I'm from the Natural Resources Institute. I work with Laura. So my first language is French. I don't know if you can hear. So I'm a food technologist by background, and I have been involved quite recently in RTBfoods. So the last 3 months of last year, and my role consisted in supporting activity 4, consumer work. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laurent Adensi. I'm food scientist at USAFSA. I'm working on boiled yam and boiled cassava in RTB food project. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Alexandre Bougnol. I'm a cereal scientist hosted in Benin at University of Abomey-Calavi. And I'm a food technologist, and I am involved in the activity 4 or step 3 of the work package 1 methodology.
Great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adetona Sunkura Sidibe. I'm agriculture economist and a gender in value chain specialist. And I'm working in the package 1, W package 1 with Laura. And also I conducted the work with socioeconomic studies and the market demand studies. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all so much for introducing yourselves. I think we'll go right into it. I will switch off my camera. Sorry, my bandwidth might not hold it. Huh? That's fine. I hope that's fine, Eglantine. But yeah, lots of accomplishments that Laura mentioned in the presentation. And so one thing is to remind people to go ahead and view the questions and responses that have already been entered in the question and answer document of forum. I think Eglantine shared again the link in the chat. So what we'll do is that we'll start the discussion with about 4 overarching questions. We drew these questions from the issues that were raised in the question and answer document. So the main 4 themes that were coming up. And then after that, we'll probably pull in other questions that have been entered in the question and answer document after we'd already looked at it. We looked at it yesterday and also in the chat box. And then I also encourage all other Work Package 1 team members to respond to some of the questions that might come in the chat, just in case we might not have time to go through those. So yeah, I'll start with the first question. And it draws in from interdisciplinary/multidisciplinary research work that has been done within the project and within the teams. So in the video about the publication of journal articles, I'm sure some of you probably haven't seen it, but Claire it will be presented on Wednesday, I think it was by Claire, who commented about all the hard work that has gone into publishing some of the journal articles that were mentioned. But he also stressed that the ultimate goal is not just to publish, but to change the breeding process. So the work under Work Package 1 and the project as a whole has been done by interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary teams, both at the coordination and team level. And multidisciplinary research or interdisciplinary research comes with its strengths and challenges, and we want to focus on the positives. So for each of the panelists, and we will use the same order that we used, we'll ask each and every one of you to just quickly maybe give best practices that you have learned in the project or in previous projects that you've been part of. So a best practice that you have learned working with multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary teams. So we can start with you, Tessie.
Okay, thank you very much. The best thing that has happened to me is working with people from different disciplines, both the breeders, the food scientists, all of us coming together as a team to look at issues from different perspectives. And at the end of the day, I agree on the relevant information that will improve the work. So we'll be able to work as a team. In previous studies, it's not like this, but I think it's a very good development that people come together from different disciplines, because everybody from different disciplines, they have something to offer. And that is why we're coming out with enriched data that we are going to feed on to the breeders. And also this, my other take is the involving a lot of relevant stakeholders, especially within the cassava value chain. everybody within the cassava value chain has something to provide, and they are all stakeholders in whatever research work we are going to churn out. And because they have a say in what we're going to do, we're coming out with demand-driven answers to their demand-driven questions. So my interest is the synergy of working with different people, different disciplines, and also working with all the people along the value chain is so rewarding and so encouraging and very interesting. That is why Work Package 1 was able to come up with all the achievements that Laura enlisted because of the teamwork approach. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tessie. Laura, if you could also just briefly give us one quick lesson or best practice.
Sure, thank you. So very similar to Tessie, but saying something a bit different is I think the lesson learned is that I need to be, and people will probably be chuckling when they hear this, but is that I need to be more, or we need to be more patient and give more time to talk things through, and we need to listen more when we're working in interdisciplinary teams. I think sometimes it's easier to move faster when we separate and we'll just say, okay, we'll do a gender analysis separately and we'll go to the field and do this. And then it's much easier that way because we can control who we sample and what questions we're asking. But the real benefit actually comes when you give interdisciplinarity the time that it needs and you talk things through with colleagues. Thanks.
Great, thanks. So raising issues about time and not just rushing, and also the communicating bit. Thank you. Kenneth, do you have anything to add?
Oh yes, this was a unique opportunity of bringing different experts together into a pool and then interpreting concepts. You find that one from the background of food science, from background of economics. It was a huge opportunity, where through from tools development, then even in the field, tackling the different approaches to reaching the communities with the help of different expertise. I'm sure there is nothing that was left behind, and it was a huge lesson that other projects should be learning from in future. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Aurelie, just briefly.
Oh, hello everyone. Yeah, so that's been a excellent experience to work with the different teams. So I have contacted the different teams and done some data analysis and also worked on their report for activity 4. And so I realized that everybody was from such a different background. There were social scientists and more pure scientists. And I would say, in my experience, what I found is when you communicate with people from other backgrounds, it's very important to have a very plain and easy language, so people who are not from the same background can understand. So not use too many technical words, but you really need to explain very clearly and very openly what you mean when you use those technical words.
Great, thank you for raising that point, because it not only works just in the teams, but also when you're disseminating this information to other audiences that are outside the project, or who are decision makers in some of the work that we're doing. So it's a great point. Lauren, quickly, briefly. Hello? Laurent, are you there? We can maybe go to Alexandre, and then we can come back to Laurent.
Okay. So on my side, I found that the multidisciplinary approach made it possible to fit the different stages of the methodology, which highlighting a true complementarity of the approaches. So I found it was very interesting. It was also interesting to work with the different partners in order to work on the data treatment and to also review and participate to the writing of the different reports.
Great. Thank you so much. I think it's important to discuss these things because, like I've said, it goes beyond the project, and it's important to make sure that within the teams, we all understand, what we are doing, given that we have different, like the panelists have mentioned, the different terminologies that people use or different understanding of their work. So I think that's one good thing that we had in the project, and hopefully as we move forward with all the other work, it continues well. So yeah, I think in the interest of time, I'm going to ask Deborah to go ahead and ask the next question, and then we can maybe go back to me.
Great. Well, thank you, Priscilla, and to all the panelists. I particularly appreciated the comment on mixed methods from Kenneth about the way in which using different methods really requires that you challenge the steps that you're taking and the tools that you're using. And I think that that's a useful thing to keep in mind, along with patience in the next year or two of the project. So my question is really about the 5-step methodology. And I think it's important, as Dominique said, to recognize how critical a contribution this is, a very valuable contribution. And I'm curious whether we could hear from one or two of you, perhaps Laura and Tessie to begin with, about whether the methodology has been or could be replicated for other crops besides RTB foods. That would be the first part of the question. And the second part is whether you have received comments from others after you published this methodology about ways that you might be thinking of adapting it. And there are also a couple of people who are making comments in the chat that I encourage you to look at as well. We'll hopefully come back to that. So could the methodology be replicated, and have you heard comments about adapting it?
Tessie, do you want to respond first, or should I?
Laura, go ahead.
Okay, so about the adaptability of the methodology, I don't see why it couldn't be applied to different different crops, different products. The methodology itself can be tailored as it was done with the different RTB crops. So if you're going to use it, let's say, to look at grains, then you may want to put more of a focus on post-harvest, like storage qualities. And it uses quite standard approaches from food science, economics, and gender, which have already been applied in different agricultural and consumer testing contexts. So for example, on gender, we use, Deborah, your framework, which is the gender dimensions framework from 2011. So we've actually combined quite standard approaches that have been used and proven in a variety of different agricultural contexts. On the second part, we haven't...
comments.
Sorry?
About receiving comments.
Yeah, about receiving comments. I mean, there was the email exchange that we had, that most of us probably could see. And so people wanted to feed their lessons from the methodology into redeveloping that paper, that methodological paper. So Gerard and Tessie are leading a lessons learned session. I think Eglantine mentioned it at the beginning, which will capture people's experiences using the methodology, and then we'll feed that back into kind of redeveloping it. But outside the RTB Foods project, I haven't received any feedback, no. So really looking forward to hearing some.
Okay, thank you very much, Laura. I don't see why, like Laura said, why it can't be applied to other crops, especially cereals. Apart from putting more emphasis on processing for the cereals, I also think that the methodology should have a lot to do with diseases and pests, because those are the things that affect cereals most. So it can be it's standardized. The only thing you have to do with cereals is adapt to your own situation. It's quite dynamic and it's applicable. And we have not received any feedback so far on the methodology from the work that we published. But on the other ones, we have the journals we did, we have received a lot of people who have referenced the work. So I think it's applicable to cereals and even beyond cereals. This methodology can go beyond cereals and RTB. Thank you.
Well, that's great to hear. There's a comment in the chat from Dr. Jan Lowe about whether you feel that one part of the methodology was more effective, the market surveys or the consumers with the consumers, or the more detailed trained sensory panels in developing the food product profiles. Could one of the other of you please respond to that? Perhaps Kenneth or Alexandra or Laurent?
I can give a shot on this. To me, I think this has been the perfect method all through when we read literature. Because first of all, it emphasizes consulting the end users of the technology before you go ahead to do the breeding program evaluations. I mean, it is already taking into consideration what the users want. And that means even in the long run, adoption is likely to be higher. For our side, I have seen that this can be replicated even in other products, especially I have interacted with the researchers working on tea in Uganda. Already they are planning to pick the methodology to begin the tea research with it. So I'm sure this is the right way to go for other commodities, especially those planning to introduce new technologies to the end users.
Well, that's really encouraging to hear. Priscilla, can we go back to you for another broad question?
Sure, but I wanted Alexander to probably give his insights also on this, especially since he was in charge of the consumer participatory processing. So Alexander, if you can just give your insights on that same question that was raised on whether or not one method was probably more effective than the other one, and maybe to what extent.
So on my side, I know that processors are the key operators in the value chain because they are able to speak about the raw materials. So they need some important characteristics on raw material, and they also know the consumer needs. So it's very important to obtain their observation. So for me, it's possible to apply the same methodology on other crops without any problem, because I think we will have the same expertise from the processors.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So
can I just say something there? I think all the processes are complementary to each other.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was about to say.
All of them gave rise to the final one, the kata and the jar, because all the threads were, synthesized to the final one. So none is more important. They all complement each other. And that is why this methodology is quite unique in its own.
Great, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, that was the point I was about to make, that the different steps all complement each other, and they don't work in isolation as such. So yeah, okay, I'll go into the next question. And this question is related to the gender and social inclusion, if we can say it like that. The research shows that there's a lot of gender-related preferences, as well as the different roles that men and women take in cultivation, processing, and consumption of the products. And it has really been a significant part of the work that Work Package 1 has done. So the main question that we have is, how do the panelists see, or how do the insights that came out of the gender and social consumer segmentation that happened, how will that all be integrated into the breeding process, and any challenges that maybe the panelists see around that? So maybe we can start with Lauren, if you're on. And maybe one or two other can comment, one or two other panelists. Lauren, is he on? Maybe he's having internet issues, I guess, yeah. So yes, yeah, we'll put it out to the panelists, and then, yeah, any one of you who might want to answer that.
I don't mind answering if maybe somebody else wants to go first.
Go ahead, Laura.
Okay. Just briefly, I think part of what would be important this year is, I think we've mentioned it, and I hopefully mentioned it in the presentation, that while we've identified the important quality characteristics at each of the stages, which is kind of iteratively fed into other work packages, the work of other work packages, what we need to do this year is make a brief, a synthesis really, of what are the main characteristics coming out of each activity and what are the agreed list of final characteristics. So I think what I'd like to do is, we'll maybe agree with the gender working group, agree with the broader teams, what is a gender related preference, like actually define what that means, and then say if a trait or if a characteristic is or it isn't, and then be able to track that characteristic throughout the breeding process and use it as a key part of monitoring and evaluation of the project. So track if it's being taken up, why or why not is it being taken up or not. So that would be something I'd see as being important for the way forward.
Okay, thanks. Does anyone else in the panel wants to take that on? Okay. Well, yeah, thanks, Laura. I think one other issues that has come up in the chat from Hans is, the need for various product profiles. I guess it was Jen Low who probably first mentioned it, or someone else. But anyway, yeah, the need that, we probably need more than one breeding product profile, given that there are so many segments in the communities that we work in. So yeah, I guess that's something that needs to be looked into, rather than just focusing on one breeding product profile. There might be need to have more than one. And I guess it's also related to the insights that come out of the gender related work, and also talking about gender, not just as a binary men versus women, but going beyond and seeing all the different interactions with other variables like youth, age, and so forth, and ethnicity. So yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, Deborah.
Well, we clearly need much more time than the last minute and a half that we have. So one thing I can promise to do is to add the questions that are coming up in the chat into the Q&A, so that there's an opportunity for everyone to see them and for the panelists and others on the team to answer them. I will just ask this question, but not expect an answer, but I hope it's something that we can think about as we move through the week. And my question is, and this came up in a couple of ways in other people's questions, that as the next phase of the work, Laura, as you described in the video, is to work together with work package 5, as well as the other work packages. We would like to hear more across the week about how the team plans to ensure the uptake of this interdisciplinary data. And I think that that's, for me, that's the fundamental question for the project as a whole. And as I said, I won't ask you to comment on it now, but I hope that we can all be working on that question over the course of the week. So I will now turn it back to Eglantine, I think. I hope that you can come on and telling me that I'm correct in that assumption, and we'll move on to the next session.
Yeah, I'll just mention one last thing and then we can move on. We can give it back to Eglantine. Yeah. But yes, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks to the panelists. Thanks to all those who were asking questions in the chat. And as Dee has said, we will probably take these questions and put them in the Q&A forum for those questions that we were not able to answer during this this forum, and then the Work Package 1 team can respond to all your questions. So don't worry if your question wasn't answered. We still have the week, and even beyond. I think this will remain live. The Q&A document will be there, even beyond the meeting. So please feel free to add more questions in the Q&A, and then we'll try and put in some of the questions that are already here into that document. But yes, yeah, thank you so much. I think, yeah, we needed more time. But yeah, thanks so much. Eglantine, you can take over.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Priscilla. Thanks, Deborah. And thanks to all panelists for this session. Indeed, lots of questions. So the Q&A forum remains open and will remain open probably until mid-May. So that all work package coordination team have time to go and see the questions, also to consolidate the work plans. And also so that Vincent Johnson has the opportunity to go and extract the key comments, key suggestions to consolidate the meeting reports. So we are a little bit beyond schedule. I think 3 minutes. 3 minutes beyond. No, 13 minutes beyond schedule. So let's say that we go for a 10 minutes break, and we meet here at 35 for the next session on Work Package 4 and Work Package 5 achievements. Thanks, everybody.
Most welcome. What is the language? Physician.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a nice tea break or coffee break or whatever break. So we'll start now with the joint session on Work Package 4 and Work Package 5 achievement. And I'm to start the video presentation consolidated by the Work Package 4 team, and I directly continues with the Work Package 5 presentation.
Hello everyone, I'm Brigitte Wimana from RTBA in Uganda. I work as a molecular banana breeder. I'll be presenting on behalf of the breeders and the coordinator of Work Package 4. So this presentation was put together by Hannah Sheikh, the coordinator of the Work Package, and the breeders of different organizations contributed in their respective product. This slide shows the overview of the activities to be carried out by Work Package 4. In the first period, we started by putting together the set of knowledge of the different product profiles we're working on. In the second period, we looked at the different populations which could be having genetic variability required for genetic analysis for quality. And in the last period, we are working on understanding the architecture of these traits. But here we have to mention that for many products, we are supposed to be working with the tools generated by Work Package 3, but this has not been the case. So with the delay, we are trying to work with the traits already known by the breeders while we're waiting for the high throughput phenotyping method generated by Work Package 3. We'll be reporting on 3 activities. One of them is genetic architecture of users' preferred quality traits for variety, user, and socioeconomic environment in RTB breeding programs. And we'll be reporting on the developed genetic pools for quality traits for the breeding programs. And we'll be also talking about uploading the data we are generating on different databases. A number of trials have been set up in the third period of the project. For yam, 2 trials were set up in Guadeloupe by Sirad and Eneha, and 1 trial set up by Seneha in Côte d'Ivoire, and 4 trials were set up in Nigeria by ITA together with NRCRI or Mudike. For cassava, 1 trial was set up in Colombia by Alliance of Biodiversity and SIAT, and ITA together with NRCRI had 4 trials in Nigeria, and NACRI in Uganda had 2 trials. 1 trial was run by ITA on matoke, bananas, 2 trials by SIP, 3 trials by SIP on potatoes, and 1 on sweet potatoes. One general comment here is that the number of trials have reduced if you compare with the previous year, and this was one of the consequences of COVID-19, where the multiplication of the trials was slowed down, and because of the lockdown in many countries, the setup of the experiment was not done as planned. Breeders have been looking at correlations among the traits they've been working on. In cassava, at NACRI, they've been looking at the softness of cassava after steaming and boiling using a 3 method: sensory, water absorption, and penetrometer. And we see a negative, a very low correlation between sensory and water absorption, but a higher correlation between sensory and the penetrometer method, which is also positive. At the alliance between Biodiversity and SIAT, they looked at correlation between water absorption and cooking time, and this correlation was found to be negative and significant, ranging from 0.43 to 0.78. And in the same way, ITA and NRCRI or MODIC have been looking at the correlation between attributes in fufu and gari cassava. In yam, ITA looked at correlation among starch RVA properties in the material harvested from 3 locations. At Sihad, they looked at dry matter, protein, sugars, and hardness. And at Seneha, they looked at correlation among different quality traits, including fresh color, tube, oxidation, dry matter, and so on. And in sweet potato, in SIP, they looked at correlation between optimum cooking time and other traits. And they found a negative correlation between firmness and beta amylase activity. And at IITA, we looked at correlation among sensory and other lab traits. And we found out that correlation among the sensory traits was quite high, which was as expected. And there was a negative moderate correlation between dry matter and the sensory traits. For heritability and genotype by environment effect, in cassava, they looked at 2 kinds of cassava, vitamin A content and the white fresh cassava from 4 environments. And they found that G by E was significant for the 2 types of cassava. And the same work was done also on fufu and the gari yield attributes in Nigeria. In yam, they found low to intermediate heritability for the RVA properties in cassava in 3 trials. And at Sihad, they found significant G by E, even though in some cases the main effect of environment was not significant. And heritability was ranging from 0.4 to 0.91. In matoke, the heritability of sensory trait ranged from 0.4 to 0.7. And for dry matter, the heritability was estimated at 0.68. Work has started on finding quantitative traits associated with quality traits in different products. Here we are reporting on QT analysis on dry matter and browning due to oxidation in yam as done by IITA. And also at CIRAD, they looked at QT associated with sugars and dry matter. And at SIP, they looked at beta amylase gene in 25 sweet potato genotypes, looking at its new variation in the region within exon 5 and 6. And remember, when we're looking at correlation, we saw that the activity of this gene is negatively correlated with firmness. A number of genotypes have been generated, evaluated for quality attributes and advanced. At NRCRI, at Mudike, 14 yam genotypes were under trial at 4 locations. At Sihad, 7 new hybrids were selected and given to ENEHA for sanitization. And at Alliance of Biodiversity and SIAT, 12 clones out of 72 were selected for their low cyanide content. At IITA, together with NRCRI Mudike, 6 genotypes of cassava were found to be performing based on participatory assessment by the farmers, and 11 clones are now under evaluation in 6 districts in Uganda by NACRI. The phenotypic data generated by work package 4 are all going to different breeding bases, such as Musa base, cassava base, and sweet potato base. And in addition to the work done actually by work package 4, we have been providing material to work package 2 and work package 3 in the attempt to understand the quality traits at the lab level and also at developing the phenotyping tools. Meetings were held to boost synergies among instituted work packages. One of those meetings was for yam, gathering all the institutes working on the crop. Another one was for cassava, and there was a joint meeting for matoke, sweet potato, and potato. And the purpose of the meetings was for the breeders to sit in one gathering and have a discussion and share their concerns and experiences. The main issue that was identified in those meetings was that there was a lack of flow information between work package 2 and work package 4. Therefore, separate meetings were organized per crop between the 2 work packages. And one of the major decision that was taken in those meetings was that we should be collecting near spectra for all the breeding populations and also keep the flower for each sample so that whenever we have the phenotyping tools, we can use the samples for analysis. Also for Matoke, a working team was put together to help with the analysis of near spectra, and this team is led by Fabrice Davrieux. In the coming period, we keep on having such meetings so that we can have the synergy flowing. In this fourth period, we are continuing with phenotyping the breeding populations using the methods that are available, the ones that the breeders have been using. We are also increasing the interaction with work package 2 and work package 3 in order to learn about the method that they are developing and also be able to implement them whenever they will be ready. And at the same time, we're continuing to assess the architecture of the quality traits in terms of correlation among the traits, heritability, the effect of a genotype by environment, interaction, and also looking at the markers associated with the traits. We acknowledge the contribution of the different breeding teams led by the different breeders in the institutions working with RTBfoods, and also the different projects, Next Gen Cassava, GT4SP, Africa Yam, Sasha, and Accelerated Breeding of Better Bananas. This project is mainly funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, but Work Package 4 received some contribution from RTB Therapy and also from Cavabio, EU, GIZ, and USAID. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you to the Work Package 4 team. And we are now moving directly to Work Package 5 achievement presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, good day. We are seizing this opportunity to present WP5 achievements during period 3 of the RTBfoods project. I am Gerard Ngo Newila, a food scientist at Karbab in Cameroon. I'm actually presenting this work on behalf of WP5 co-leaders and all contributors, without whom this communication would not have been possible. The outline of the presentation is as follows. The RTB Food project comprises 5 work packages linked to one another by a series of outputs. WP5 focuses on the final stages of crop selections and is implemented primarily in Nigeria and Uganda, and to a lesser extent in spillover countries, that is, Cameroon and Cote d'Ivoire. The prime purpose of this work package is to establish mechanisms that link breeding outputs to key users in order to identify outstanding genotypes that meet the desired requirements. At the end of the day, the most promising genotypes will be released and promoted. Information in the various partner institutions as well as RTB crops and products of interest are herein displayed. 11 teams from 6 partner institutions in 4 African countries were involved in WP5 with a focus on 9 food products of interest. Trial designs put in place by the various institutes alongside the PVS method used were varied. Three ADIC comparison technology or TRICOT were put in place for cassava by IITA, NRCRI, and NACRI, while randomized complete block design with varied number of replications were put in place for cassava at IITA, banana at NAR, plantain at CARBAP, and yam at NRCRI. The methodology used for the participatory varietal selection comprises most of the time a combination of 2 or more data, including sensory data, laboratory data, and agronomic data. Regarding the output of WP5, it is important to note that more than 190 clones were assessed by partner institutions during period 3. These included 17 sweet potato clones, 66 cassava clones, 10 yam clones, 10 plantain clones, and 91 cooking banana clones. We recall that the RTBfoods pool developed had as principal target the identification of 11 clones meeting users' preferences. This target was not attained as only 7 user-preferred clones were identified and released. These are 4 cassava clones for IITA and NRCRI based on the evaluation of 15 cassava clones, and 3 yam clones for IITA based on the evaluation of 10 clones. The reason behind the incomplete identification and release of other clones is late planting due to COVID-19. The crops impacted include cassava, yam, and sweet potato in CNRA, Côte d'Ivoire, cooking banana in now Uganda, and plantain in CARBAP, Cameroon, and in CNRA, Côte d'Ivoire. Concerning the identification of clones meeting user preferences, the 4 cassava clones were accepted for boiled or pounded product profile, industrial product profile, and food security product profile, while the 3 yam clones were accepted because of their good agronomic performances and their food qualities. Interaction mechanisms between the work packages varied depending on the work package. Regarding WP1, successful interaction with WP5 lead to the the identification of focus community for WP5 and to the identification of quality characteristics on which one can evaluate the improved clone. For WP2, there is a need to finalize main traits for WP5 in order to know which laboratory analysis is developed or available. In this context, any feedback on ability of protocols to be used in discrimination of good clones must be frequently alongside specific traits to be evaluated. The involvement of the WP1 leadership in WP5 methodology development and the identification of non-transferable analysis could improve these interactions. As for WP3, the identification of methods that can be easily carried out for WP5 concerns through meetings with WP3 leadership is. Still concerning interaction mechanism, communication with WP4 enabled the second year of tricot trials in 3 locations, as well as the production of cassava seeds to be planted in Cameroon for period 4. Hence, it is important to identify on-farm trials that are available during period 4 and period 5 through frequent virtual meetings with WP4 leadership. Finally, interactions with the WP6, that is the PMU, enable WP5 to get in touch with the other work packages and partners. However, the PMU should make partners aware of the mobilization budget for smooth running of WP5 activities. Period 3 has been a challenging one for each and every one of us, with most of our objectives not being attained. During period 4, we plan to develop a generic WP5 methodology evaluation with end users before the end of the first semester of 2021. Participative varietal selection will be carried out by IITA, CARBAP, SIP, NRCRI, NOW, and CIRAD, with the various stakeholders of corresponding crop value chains. For the trials put in place, agronomic evaluation will continue, while the second round of tricot trial will be carried out by IITA, NRCRI, and NACRI. Furthermore, plot establishments for WP5 activities in period 5 will be done in CNRA, Côte d'Ivoire, and NSAI, IITA in Cameroon. Finally, the preparation of anchoring tricot trials for period 5 will be done by IITA, NRCRI, and NACRI. Before ending my presentation, I would like to extend my special thanks to all WP5 country representatives, to all participating farmers, processors, and consumers, to all WP1, WP2, WP3, and WP4 leaders and co-leaders. Then, I would like to extend my gratitude to the unshakable and dynamic PMU of the RTB Food Project, as well as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, especially to Jim. Thank you for your kind attention.
Okay, thank you, Work Package 5 team. I'm now giving the floor to Elizabeth Parks and Michael Friedman for the discussion.
Thank you, Eglantine. Thank you so much, Work Package 4 and 5. This is a huge, powerful team. My goodness. Indeed, a football team is 11, but you are 17, working in more than 6 countries, working on all the major staples. This is a fantastic team to work in. I want to congratulate you all. I'm Elizabeth Parks with IITA. I work as a Harvest Plus cassava breeder, and I am doing this with Michael. Introduce yourself.
Yes, can you see me?
Yes,
I
can. Sure.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Michael Friedman. I am the RTB CRP Science Officer, so working on all the RTB crop. And I wanted to make a very quick comment for the Work Package 1 on the gender, to keep an eye on our gender and breeding initiative, which is developing tools to incorporate gender considerations in the breeding. It'll be good for the work that you're doing. So I think we'll go straight to the questions. I will start with a few from the Q&A that's been put in the forum, and then Elizabeth will be capturing. I see many questions already in the chat, and some questions from ourselves as well. So there have been several questions in the Q&A, but I will just take a couple. For the Work Package 4, I think maybe Robert, maybe you can answer this one, and others can chip in. It comes from Dominique. It talks about the interactions between the different breeders and the different work packages, and there's you know, a lot of information coming out from individual breeding projects, information coming out from Work Package 1 and 2, and how are the exchanges of all these insights are able to integrate the new quality traits into your breeding pipeline, but still taking account, you know, from Work Package 4, you're getting information on G/E interactions, and from Work Package 5, you're getting feedback from the PBS trials. So just very quickly, maybe Robert, you start. What are your insights on how to integrate all this information that's coming in? And it's not quite there already, you know, it's still work in progress in some cases. Robert?
Maybe I think that's a very big team. For each question, we want not more than 2 people just giving us answers. So I think Robert and maybe if it's not there, maybe Asrat can also make an input there so that Robert will come, and Ruben is there as well.
So thank you so much. I think I can raise two comments related to that. The first one, that the nature of RTB work is arranged such that it taps into different disciplines: food science, gender, socioeconomics, breeding, chemistry. So inevitably, that means that you seek inputs from those different domains. And in this case, that means that we get input from Work Packet 1 in terms of what attributes are desired. Then you go to Work Packet 2.
Robert, yeah. Go ahead.
You get to work packet 2, and then for those attributes desired, how can this be translated into measurable ways? And once you get methods for assessment, then now for the breeding to see, is this trait variable, and how is the accuracy for it? So I can see that the engagement of a packet of RTB Foods project have provided a platform where these interactions can be actualized. It has been a journey for learning, and we continue to learn on how these are integrated. And right now, the methods that have been perfected, like water absorption, those have been mainstreamed into the breeding. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert. That's good to hear, on how you're incorporating that into your pipeline. Of course, it's important for cassava, but also for some of we see that cooking time is kind of a general overall important trait. So it'll be good to see how the experience from the cassava program progresses and benefits also for the other crops. I think because of the interest of time, I will go to another question. This one actually came from Laura, and it goes to, I think, Anne, maybe you can answer this. So there we have the PBS methods in the tricot, and it's looking at either sensory, agronomic data, sometimes also some lab also checking the traits. But we see that from work package 1, it's been very important to have this big impact of social science aspects. So how will you maybe incorporate social science data in addition to this other sensory lab and agronomic data into the evaluation of these varieties? And how are you looking forward to working with work package 1 and work package 5 together to address this? And also looking at, when we talk about social science data, the constraints that women face to actually take advantage of these technologies. So, Anrita, maybe you can.
Talk from there. I don't need to have the video on, right? You can. Okay. Thank you. We are working with the clones that the breeders are giving us to evaluate in the sensory evaluation. And we pick some of the attributes which were mentioned in work package 1 by the farmers to evaluate these clones. And also in the PVS, during the consumer testing evaluation, we pick some of those attributes and we evaluate the clones which are under PVS evaluation. So that's how we are working with the different work packets. Thank you.
But in terms of these social aspects that go beyond what we've been seeing in terms of just evaluating the quality traits, any adjustments perhaps in the PVS trials to evaluate this kind of, capture this kind of data, evaluate, conclude?
Yes, with the new methodology of tricot, we also go ahead and, look at the gender, the sex of the participants, their ethnicity, their different socioeconomic background, so that we have a panel of farmers who are assessing these clones from different gender background. So it's not just evaluating the attributes, but even during our selection of farmers, of men and women, we look at those socio-economic aspects so that our clones have a panel that is dynamic, that is evaluating them. Thanks.
Thank you, Anne. Now a bit more, something a bit more on the technical side. This is coming from Hans and some other people have brought up this issue as well. As you wait for the work package 3, the high throughput NIRS to actually be in place, how can you speed the process now of doing your selections when you still don't have that technology in place to select? He also thinks, he asks about maybe shifting from raw material screening to allow for more speed. I would like to send this question to Alexander.
Is that addressed here?
Sorry, Alexander.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
The question.
Yeah, yeah, it has to do with the fact that how can you speed up the screening while you're, because it seems like you have a bottleneck with the availability of the NIRS equations for screening for many of these quality traits. And Hans asked maybe to focus less on raw material to allow for more speed. Or can you do some of the other protocols in the meantime? I think that's what's kind of happening, right?
Yes, but for the work package 5, we plan to use the different method and protocols that will be produced by the work package 2 and 3. So if we have the possibility to work on the field with the NIRS methods or protocols, and if we have the equipment on the field, we will try to do that. But if we don't have a SOP for one of the characteristics, maybe we will use the method from coming from work package 2. And in this case, that will we will need for that to collect sample on the field and to go on the lab in order to analyze the different samples. So it will depend on the availability of the different methods when we will have to go on the field. I don't know if I will answer to your question.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. You work with what you
Yes.
have in hand in the meantime, and from what we see from the talks, you're making very good progress. I mean, in spite of everything that happened last year, you were able to screen a lot of varieties, and some went forward to release, fulfilling good quality traits. So that's really great. And before I pass it back to Elizabeth, I was curious about, and this would go to Gerard, you know, from what you're seeing from the TRICOT and the PVS trials results, is it kind of confirming the kind of information and insights you're getting from work package 1? Are people evaluating these varieties pretty much in accordance to the knowledge we gain from work package 1 as to what traits are important and what traits are very negative? Is there some concordance there from what you're seeing? And conversely, are you using the knowledge from work package 1 to actually know what to ask for when you're doing these trials?
Thank you very much, Michael. Are you getting me?
Yes, Gerard, go ahead, please. Go ahead. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. As he's saying, yes, we have been using the information collected from WP1, and it was a great opportunity for us to have those informations. It's also true that there are some traits that are coherent with what we had on the field and what is being done in some labs. But there are some traits that doesn't match with what we had during the surveys. And concerning the tree cut, I think that if Bella is online, he's the person who can explain it very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gerard. Bella, you want to add anything to that?
For everybody to hear, please.
Maybe we leave it there, Elizabeth, and we shift it to you for some questions.
Yes, Bella is not online. It looks like he's not online anymore.
Okay. Go ahead, Elizabeth. The floor is yours.
I want to congratulate this big team again, but I want to ask a question. It looks that from Bridget's presentation on work package 4, the breeders are earnestly waiting for work package 2, work package 3 to bring the high throughput phenotyping tools or methods for the work. I'm asking now, and when that tools become available, how do you find your breeding work being impacted? And what are your sites to also encourage this process? And this is for breeders. So starting with Hannah, and then Bridget, and then I go to Asad, Alice, and then Rabbi. I need 4 of you to make your inputs. Thank you. How will the tools really impact your breeding work? And as you wait earnestly for work package 3 with all their high throughput, and Shafe, thank you. What will you do? What are your insights? How will this impact your breeding work in your product profiles that we have all done under the EIB? Tell me. Thank you. So let it roll. Bridget, you are the presenter. Start.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That's actually the key question for work package 4. And if you, Dominique will say that this is the question I raise all the time. We are in the 4th year of the project, and till now we are still waiting. And when I see what we are doing, it's like we are trying to fill the gap, but I don't think this was really what was meant for the project. And in Matoke up to now, actually, we don't have any tangible trait to measure, because up to now, we don't know what should be measuring to define Matoke quality. The impact I see is that, let's say by the end of this year, we'll have the tool. Let's say work package 3 is going to tell us, give us 1 year, and they're going to have the tool to measure quality traits in the field. Even if we get the tool next year, Matoke will take about 4 years of phenotyping to get the exact amount of bunches, because we don't have a harvest season for Matoke. We harvest as the bunches are available, and you can get 10 bunches, let's say in a population of 300 in the population, 10 bunches per week. That means even if we can get the tool by the end of this year, I don't think we'll be able to use it and get the expected output of this project in time. Mind that we have the genotypic data available. The thing we need is the phenotypic data. And that's my biggest worry, actually.
Okay, so I think you have spoken for about 10 people. Or is it only for yourself? Let me hear, yours is plantain is in the air. Let me get one root crop, either yam or cassava, to speak. I am talking about where your situation is and what is your hope when the tools come. What would be your joy? This is what I want to. So thank you so much, man. I need one person, either from cassava or yam or potatoes, and I'll be fine. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, this is Asra. Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, let me speak about yam. I think the tools we are expecting from the work package 3, especially for the large screen, size screening of materials at early stage, the impact is so high. But in terms of yam, we are working very closely with the team, and then they did some calibration, and the harvest from 2020, they are also going to do some validation. So once they do the validation, hope that will also transfer to the breeding program to at least fast track our screening for the quality traits. The other aspect is, for instance, we also trying to develop or get some molecular markers using these phenotyping tools. And in our yam, we have some markers, and we need to also validate this, and hope all these results will
Can I
impact
please
on
cut in a little bit? Excuse me. Can we make it snappy? Because you're going to get your markers and you are working with them, and that is brilliant. So I have a request to hear from Yam Cassava, Dr. Rabi, and then Dr. Shafe. I have been asked to let them make their input, so I have no choice. Let me obey. Please go ahead, Rabi. And it should be, you know, they've said just points. I have one last question to ask this. Thank you.
Good. I hope you can hear me.
Perfect, perfect, sir.
And some of you may see me as well because I have my camera on. I think this is a very important question. We are always very impatient and eager to get these tools started with. I remember very well when the RTBfoods project started, some of us went ahead and started processing the advanced selections, for example, the uniform yield trials and so on, into the various products that are very commonly consumed in Nigeria. And we immediately brought it to the food science team and said, okay, these are the varieties, these are the samples. Can you help to tell us which are the good ones? And the response there was that we don't know what are the traits and how to measure them. But I think since then, we have come a long way. And together with the Dr. Mazia Dixon's lab, we have been able to use the information that came from, for example, work, and we have been generating data on, the physical chemical traits. And hopefully this year we want to link that up with the NIRS moving forward so that we can make it high throughput. Thank you.
So Shafe would do the last comments, very brief from that we want to be inclusive. Do that for me briefly, please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Lisbeth. So I will be talking about the boiled cassava. So for boiled cassava, so we breeders, I don't think we are waiting for the input from work package 2 and 3. I think we really actively interact with work package 2 and 3. So after we received the feedback from work package 1, we know at least that there are 4 high priority traits. So we work with package 2 and 3 to develop the method, for example, the water absorption. And also, I believe Robert is also using is also testing some method to measure the softness. Okay. So, and also this method has been used in breeding populations. So I believe, so the communication and also working together, that's key for developing varieties for with good queen qualities. So Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. So what I want to ask is, there's a question in the chat where Dr. Henan is asking if we could look at heritabilities, for narrow sense heritabilities. I don't know if there's anyone who wants to do that. Time I would want you all to go back to the chat box and then give your answers there. I want to ask this question to the work package 5. We're talking about tricot for PVS, which is brilliant. What is the role of on-farm testing? Will the varietal release committee accept your tricot as something that suffices for whatever they need for releasing varieties in the various countries? This is a question, it's $1 million question. Would they accept that? I think we have very limited time now. Who would go for this? I just want one response. Anna should do that. Anna Rita, you are promoting tricot, and Bella, tell us what we should expect. Have you out with that NR, the variety release committee? Do they accept it in the various countries as the means for PVS? And yes, please.
I will speak on behalf of Uganda. For Uganda, yes, the committee accepted tripod, but they had to undergo training. They were trained, and then they also visited the trials, and they saw some of the clones that are under tripod evaluation. So after training and sensitization, and they understood what tricot is, they accepted, and yes, our clones are going to be released. So for us, they accepted. And I believe for the others too, they can if they are trained and sensitized about the tripod methodology.
Going forward, will it replace on-farm testing? That's the next question. For those, yeah.
You asked that, and yeah, in my case, I believe it is a positive method. I like it. It's good. Yes, I would advocate for it to replace the usual way we do PVS for 2 major reasons. Number one, a clone is evaluated by very many people, so you get very many data points, and if it is selected as the best overall, it will be good indeed. And then also, it's like you're already introducing these clones to the farmers, you see, to the community. So I think it can replace the other usual way we've been doing PVS evaluation.
Okay, so in Nigeria, we have demand creation trial as well, which is also an excellent means. On that, over to my colleague, Michael. We have limited time. It was excellent talking to you, and I wish we could keep on talking to this 17-strong member team. Thank you so much.
Oh, time to conclude. But we want to first really thank the presenters and all their teams for excellent progress in spite of everything that has gone on. And the panel, I'm sorry, you're such a big panel and so many people. We would have loved to have heard from all of you, but we just couldn't fit you all in. So thank you for being there, available. And I'm sure maybe you can address some of the questions in the chat and in the Q&A. There are many questions there that we were not able to get to. But thank you, everybody, for a very interesting session. Elizabeth?
Yeah, thank you. So, Eglanto, we are thankful. We want to hand over Work Package 4 and Work Package 5 leaders, 17 members back into your hands. And from there, we want to say thank you for having us. Thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Michael, and all colleagues from the Work Package 4 and 5. Indeed, we could not hear from all of you, but most of you and the 2 women from the panel Two of them spoke, so it's good also to have women's voice in these type of panels. So we are done for today. It was the last session of today. Let me share with you the agenda for tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll start with the Work Package 2 achievement session, moderated by Busi Mazia Dixon, who is a Work Package 2 leader, and Bruce Amaker from Advisory Committee. And after tea break, we'll continue with the Work Package 3 session, moderated by Pierre Dardenne from the Advisory Committee and Hernan Ceballos, from a cassava breeder from CIAT, Colombia. And we'll have two presentations, one on the mid-throughput protocol for cooking ability assessment through water absorption by Thierry and the CIAT team. And we'll have a presentation to conclude the day with on finance and budget. Thanks everybody for joining today, and we'll meet tomorrow, same time, same Zoom link. And do not forget to go and view the photos for the photo challenge and vote for your 9 favorite pictures. Dominique, do you want to say a word to conclude today?
No, it's just the beginning. Please use the chat and use the Q&A, because we packed the meeting, and we hope that everybody can interact by the Q&A, and it will be sure that you will receive response for your question. Please use it. And obviously, remember that the product profile presentation will not be broadcast, and you need to watch them before the product profile session on Wednesday. Please, it's a lot of work for all the people. Have a look on the different video, and we will interact on Wednesday morning. Thank you very much. I think it was very interesting for everybody. Tomorrow we will go in the biochemical analysis, and we will have nice discussion about new developments on medium throughput protocol, especially on water absorption for cooking, for water absorption. See you tomorrow.
Goodbye.
We'll take a picture one day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Bye. Ciao, ciao tout le monde.
Thank you. Bye. Good evening.
Well done, Eglantine. Très bien. Félicitations.
Yes.